But we're hoping that
Okay.
no, it would be in the hall.
It should be over.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. City Attorney, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
City Clerk, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can't see out of that. City Manager.
I'm ready.
All right. I call this City Commission Workshop for Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018, to order at 6:05. May we please stand for the invocation given by Commissioner Everett, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We are grateful for your grace and your mercy. You know our purpose and reason for coming, and it's to transact the business of this great city. Father, we pray for wisdom. We pray for knowledge, understanding. But God, we also ask that you would give us the endurance to see this progressive movement to the end. Guide our efforts, strengthen us for the tasks that lie ahead. And this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Bab,
Present.
Commissioner Everett,
Present.
Commissioner Hill,
Present.
Vice Mayor Mervin, Commissioner Walker, City Manager,
Here.
City Attorney,
Present.
Deputy Freeman,
Present.
City Clerk, present.
Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, staff. And thank each of y'all for being here tonight to participate in our workshop of Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018. Tonight's workshop will be covering some ethic training. We're going to turn this portion over to our city manager to introduce our trainer and kind of lead us into this particular segment of our workshop.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. Thank you very much. Residents, thanks for coming out tonight. It's a good segue into tonight. Ethics training, ethics updates on from Palm Beach County. And of course, as elected officials and appointed officials, we have a responsibility to ensure that our behaviors and our activities represent those standards that we hold true, ensuring that we do the people's business publicly, openly, and in a transparent manner. And with that, I want to introduce our guest tonight to give us some updates from their perspective on who we should be on a daily basis here for the city of Pahokee and for Palm Beach County, and ultimately the state of Florida, where our responsibility comes from as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Mark Bannon. I'm the Executive Director of the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. Unfortunately, I won't be doing any ethics law in the state. I also want you all to understand that this is local ethics training for our code and does not apply to the 4 hours you have to do yearly for the state, so keep that in mind. Anyway, put it without me. I know how to work without a PowerPoint. So, I've been with the Commission on Ethics for about almost 8 years, which is as long as they've been in existence. I came over originally on a retired lieutenant from the Sheriff's Office, went to law school toward the end of my career, so I am an attorney as well. And I came over as an investigator with them originally, then I was interim staff counsel and staff counsel, and then interim director, and now I'm the executive director for the last 2 years. There we go, thank you. This is the current Commission on Ethics. Ethics. There are 5 volunteer members. The reason I bring up the fact that they're volunteers is because, like most code enforcement boards, and that's what they are. By the way, I apologize if I have my back to you because I've got to see the screen or I can't do this. Like most code enforcement boards, they are volunteers. The code they enforce is the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. What I also like to point out is that these 5 members are appointed to 4-year terms, but none of them are appointed by any municipal government or the county government. So that maintains their independence. They're all appointed by different stakeholders within the county, and they maintain their independence in that manner, which is important. I have a small staff. I'm not the Inspector General, which is a much larger office, although they were created at the same time as ours. I have a much smaller staff. There's 5 of us, but we do pretty well with 5 people, considering we have 13,000 people under the Code of Ethics within the county. What do? Well, we investigate complaints, which is what we're best known for. But we also answer questions about the Code of Ethics. We do that in 2 ways. If you have a general question, just call us on the phone. We'll be happy to tell you. If there's an advisory opinion on point, we'll just tell you what that says. We've done 400 advisory opinions in 8 years, so there's a possibility your question may have been answered. We cannot answer specific questions on the phone. We can, however, go to the next step and write an advisory opinion for you. You submit your question in writing, and it doesn't have to be anything more than an email, what you want to know and what the background is, and we will write an advisory opinion telling you whether you can do what it is you want to do under the code and how you must do it if you can do it. We also do, as you see here tonight, training and community outreach, but our whole purpose of our staff is to help you understand your responsibilities under the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. So today we're going to do training, and we're going to do these in a couple of steps. The first step we're going to talk about is the ethics decision tree, which was something created by our former staff council, and what it does is it gives you a basis, a 4-step process. When you want to take an action and you're not sure if you can, these are the 4 steps we'd like you to follow to make sure you don't get yourself in trouble. Then we're going to talk about the Code of Ethics, particularly conflicts of interest, the gift law, and some other miscellaneous provisions. Frequently asked questions. I just took this training. Why do I have to take it again? Actually, the code mandates that you have to take mandatory retraining. It doesn't say how often that is. That is entirely up to the policy of your city. So if the city of Pahokee mandates that every 2 years you take training, then that's their policy. The county does it every 3 years. We have cities that do it every year. It's absolutely up to your policy. What we like to see in the policy in terms of elected officials is, rather than doing the 2 or 3, which seems to interfere with the elections a little bit as who's going to be there, we like to see your policy, and we ask you to do it this way. Just have them have training upon election or re-election, and that way they're covered, whatever that period of time is. With employees, it's easy to do annually, semi-annual, whatever. But with elected officials, it becomes more difficult because you'll get this twice in one time, and it doesn't make any sense to do that for you. All right, what's the purpose of the Code of Ethics? It's to establish honest and ethical conduct in how we act with each other, how we act with our employees, how we act with our constituents. Protects confidential information, and the entire purpose of the creation of my agency is to increase public trust in local government. That's really what we're trying to do. And who does the code apply to? It applies to all county and municipal officials and employees, whether appointed or elected. It does not apply to state officers. Obviously, the Florida code does, but we have no authority over state officers. We also have no authority over constitutional officers, the sheriff and such. They are constitutional officers, and therefore, while they're under the Florida code, they are not under our code. So it's county and municipal employees and elected officials as a rule, or in all officials. So the ethics decision tree. When there's an act that you're considering doing, we want you to do these things. When I talk to you about advisory opinions, keep this in mind. If you've already taken the action, I can't give you an opinion. It's too late. So if you have a problem, please call us first. We're happy to help you through it. But once you've taken the action, I can't give you advice anymore because you've already done that. Okay, the first question we want you to ask yourself, is what I want to do legal? It doesn't matter if it violates the Code of Ethics. It doesn't matter what it might violate. If there's a state law or a municipal ordinance that says you can't do it, we certainly have no authority to give you permission to act against the law. So that's always your first question. If it's legal, you can do it, and if it's not, you can't. Second question, does it comply with the Code of Ethics? If you're not sure, if you need help, call us. We're more than happy to answer questions, whether it be by written opinion or just asking us general questions. We get this all the time, and we're very happy to answer those questions because that saves us a lot of investigation when you do it without asking and it's wrong. So if you ask us, we're here to help you. Does it comply with county municipal policy? Once again, even though it may not violate a state law or a municipal ordinance, even though it may not be against the Code of Ethics, you may have a policy that says you can't do that. And particularly with employees, you have to follow your city policy. Because if employees don't follow their city policy, then they can be disciplined for not doing so. So that's always the third question you need to ask yourself. And finally, could your actions create problems for the agency or the people you serve? The reason I bring that up, we have two standards in the world that people have to follow, particularly in government. Number one is called the minimum legal standard, and that means you have to follow the law, you have to follow the policies, you have to do what you're mandated to do. But the second one we like to refer to as the good government standard. And what that means is this. I've been in government, well, I spent almost 27 years with the sheriff's office. I was a state attorney for a while. I've been 8 years, so I've been in government a long time. And we all know we live in a glass case. That's the way government is. Everybody knows that. Particularly in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State, because we are so much about transparency, open records, and things like that. So what we ask you to consider when you're going to take an action is, how does this look to people? We have had people ask us if they can do something, and you've seen it in some of our advisory opinions where we said, it does not appear to violate the Code of Ethics. However, there is an appearance of impropriety that you need to consider before you take this action. We're not telling you you can't, we don't have the authority to tell you that. What we're telling you is, you might want to consider how this looks before you do it. We've had a case like that a few years ago where the person that asked us the question did it anyway, and he did nothing wrong, no violation of any rules or law. He still ended up in the Palm Beach Post for 3 days because of the way it looked. So keep that in mind. In government, we're open, we're transparent, and we have to be ready to remember that we have a good government standard that we have to live by. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right, we're going to talk about conflicts of interest right now. Basically, it's when our personal activities or our personal relationships interfere or appear to interfere with what we are at work. Or in the case of us providing a special benefit to someone. Special benefit will be defined a little more later, but what it basically means is it's something that you're either not entitled to give or not entitled to get because other people don't get the same benefit or a similar benefit. When that happens, sometimes a special benefit is financial and sometimes it isn't. So anyway, we're going to go on to the prohibited conduct section, which is the largest section of the code. There are 4 sections. Misuse of public office or employment, that's talking about a financial misuse. Basically, it means using your position, whether it be as an employee, an official, in a way to gain or give a benefit that you're not allowed to gain or give. The second is a corrupt misuse, which is basically the same thing, except that the second one does not require a financial benefit. It requires any benefit at all that you're not allowed to give. We're going to talk about disclosure of voting conflicts, which goes with Section A, and then finally contractual relationships. So Section A, public employees and officials are prohibited from using their official position in a manner that results in a special financial benefit if that special financial benefit is given to any of these 7 people or entities. To yourself, to any household member, spouse, or domestic partner, to an outside business or outside employer if you have one, to any close family relative, and actually that section of the code defines exactly what they mean by close family relative, to your spouse or domestic partner's employer, outside employer or business, to a customer or a client of your outside business, if you have an outside business. Understand is this, if you have a business and you, in combination with your wife or your domestic partners or your husband or any close family relative own at least 5% of that business, that's considered your outside business. In fact, if you own none of that business and your wife owns all of it or your husband owns all of it, that is considered your outside business. So keep that in mind. A debtor or creditor of the official employee who owes or is owed more than $10,000. Again, specifically not talking about banking institutions such as credit cards, mortgages, things like that. We're talking about personal loans because those are the types of loans that could be an issue. And finally, nonprofit organizations, but only if the official or their spouse or domestic partner serves as a board on the board of directors or as an officer of that organization. Why is that important? How's that a conflict? Well, actually, I'm going to get to that because we have an example on that. What do we mean by a financial benefit? It means anything of value if that is obtained through the use of your official position. That can be your employment, your advisory board membership, or your elected official. Either you obtain a benefit, financial benefit that you're not entitled to, or you give someone that benefit that they're not entitled to. And a special financial benefit, which are the ones we're worried about, is one that is not shared by similarly situated members of the general public. Similarly situated means everybody affected by a decision is affected in the same manner. Let me give you an example of that because I'm going to shoot through some of these other examples. So your sister lives in town and you guys are voting on whether to put new water lines into her development. That development has 400 homes. So can you vote on your sister on that water line if your sister lives in that development? The answer is yes. 400 homes is a lot of homes. Everybody in that neighborhood is going to use these water lines. There is no special benefit to her, and the class of people is large enough where it's not a special benefit. So you absolutely can do that. If you live there, you still could. You take the same example and you say you're going to put water line on a road, and there's only 4 people living on that road, and one of them is your sister. That's a different answer. Yeah, everybody on that road is going to get water, but the class is not big enough to not make it a special benefit to her. So as the classes get bigger, that special benefit disperses. Anything over 100, absolutely. That's always been the state law rulings. Under 100, it's specific. It depends on how many, how few, and what type of benefit it is. So that's the thing we're talking about with special benefit, special financial benefit, particularly. So, some examples. A municipal employee is designated to accept payments for water bills generated by the city's water department. May the employee personally accept funds directly from his sister to pay for her water. Yes. Where an employee simply is doing their job, they take the check or however she pays her water bill and puts it with the rest of the checks or the water bills, that's fine. He can do that. It doesn't matter that it's his sister. He's giving her no special financial benefit. She got water. The city's entitled to be paid for the water, and your job is to take that money. So there is no benefit involved in this, as long as he does that exactly like he would for any other customer. Can he change the amount of her water usage to a lower amount to reflect a lower amount on her bill and make her payment lower? Well, no, he can't. Under our code, he couldn't do that for her, but under your rules, I'm sure he couldn't do that for anyone. He cannot do that. He cannot do that. But specifically under our code, that would use his position as the person who receives money for the city to give her a benefit that she's not entitled to. She has to pay the same as everyone else. The final question is a little more difficult. Can he give her an early payment discount where the city has a policy that any water bill paid at least 10 days before it's due gets a 1% discount? And she does that. Can he do that for her? He absolutely can. Why? Because he's not giving her anything she's not entitled to. If she pays in advance, she's entitled to that 1%. And one of the things I want you to understand about the entitlement is the question that comes up is, well, there's 300 users in the water and she's the only one that paid in advance, so technically that's a special benefit. No, it's not. The question is, who is entitled to the benefit? And the answer is all 300 people, if they pay. But they didn't. So she's still entitled to that benefit whether anybody else uses it or not, because all 300 people are entitled to it. All right, an elected official serves on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization, his local church. May the elected official vote to give government funding to that particular church for a new after-school program. That is one of the 7 categories because that is a violation of number 7 in that section 244-3. You cannot give a special financial benefit to a charitable or religious organization if you are an officer of that organization or a director. And the reason for that is pretty simple. As a council, you get to vote whether they get that money. If you're on the board of directors of that charity, you also get to vote whether they ask for the money. When you have the power to vote to ask for the money and to give the money, that's a conflict of interest. You can't hold both those powers. So the next question is, what if his wife or domestic partner are not on the board, they're just members of the church? Can he vote for it then? Yeah. Because he no longer has the power to ask. That's the board of directors, and he's not on the board of directors. So yeah, he can vote for that even though he's a member of the church. What we ask you to realize is, or also remember is, it really also depends on your position within the church under the good government standard. If you're known as a leader of that church, you may want to rethink this. That's entirely up to you. I know state law requires you to vote on certain things, but state law has loosened up in the last couple of years in terms of things where you think that it looks bad. And they never used to allow that, but they do allow that now. And again, not telling you you can't vote, because clearly you can. I'm telling you, you need to consider your position and how things look.
Can we ask a question at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
As
long as it's not a specific question.
It's not a specific question. How does this particular section of the statute interpret a pastor? A pastor may sit on a board.
That's a specific question.
Well, I'm asking, what is their definition?
I don't know the answer.
Oh, okay.
The answer is either a director, meaning he's one of the president or whatever, or he's on the board of directors.
But if the pastor doesn't have any voting rights in their church, then he's not considered on the board of
Is he an
directors.
officer? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
I can't answer that question because I would have to look at the specific circumstance.
Okay.
I certainly can't do that standing here.
Right, no, I just didn't know what the definition of a pastor was.
Yeah, I believe me, I'm really very loud. Okay. Any questions about financial benefit other than that? So we go on to corrupt misuse. It's a different standard, but it's the same special benefit you're looking for. You're not looking for a financial benefit in this case. It means you cannot use your official position to corruptly secure a special benefit. It doesn't have to be financial. And this time, that's not those 7 people or entities. This is for anyone. Well, special benefit again, any benefit you or another person are not entitled to get, or you're not entitled to give, and it does not have to be financial. But what do we mean by corruptly? Actually, this is taken from the state rules, and it's very specifically spelled out on what corruptly means. 2 parts. Number 1, taken with wrongful intent. Means doing something that you know you're not allowed to do. And number 2, and what you're doing is inconsistent with the proper performance of your public duties. And everyone has to know the proper performance of their public duties, whether they be an employee or an official. You have to know those things. What are you required to do under the law? What are you supposed to do? I actually had someone ask me the question a few years ago that they didn't understand what would be inconsistent with the proper performance of their public duties, and my answer was, I don't even know what you do for the city, so I can't answer that, but your supervisor can answer that, so you need to ask him. If you don't know what your duties are, then you should ask someone. And I'm talking about particularly employees. You need to know what those are, because this is very, very specific. All right. This is an actual case, but it's the Florida Commission on Ethics that did this case. Some of the facts have changed slightly, but I'm going to give you an example of this. Town mayor's involved in a vehicle crash. The police are called to the scene, at which time the mayor identifies himself. Let me stop there, because in a lot of times in classes they go, oh, is there anybody here that does not know that you're the mayor that works in this city? Probably not. Probably not. So in small towns, and this was, it's not a big deal that he identified himself as mayor. That is not a terrible thing. But then he then directed the officer to issue a ticket to the other driver prior to even investigating the crash. Problem? Big problem. Is that a corrupt misuse of the mayor's official position? Well, the Florida Commission on Ethics considered this, and why did they consider this? Because who else is at the scene when he's talking to the police officer telling him to give a ticket? The other driver, who wrote a complaint to the Florida Commission on Ethics on this. So they had to consider this. Was that a corrupt misuse? And the Florida Commission on Ethics says, yes, it was. He's the mayor. He's acting with wrongful intent when he's trying to get somebody to do something that they're not supposed to do, which is issue a ticket with no investigation. And it's inconsistent with the proper performance of his duties as a mayor. He's not supposed to use his power in that manner. So the Florida Commission on Ethics talks about your use of power in a way you're not entitled to use it. Okay, any questions on that? Moving on to section 3, which is very much like section A, rather, section C. Very much like section A, but it talks about the way you vote on things as the use of power. And I know we have an example of that again. And it's the same 7 people or information. So let's just go to what we mean by voting conflicts. A landscape designer who serves as a town commissioner files a plan for a new development she intends to build in town. Is it permissible for her to vote on this project as a town commissioner? Clearly a financial benefit to her. It's her company. She's developing the property. Of course she can't vote on it. So that's an easy one. Both the Palm Beach County Code and the Florida Code of Ethics would prohibit her from doing that. Second, is it permissible for her to appear before her company's before the commission as her company's representative? She knows she can't vote from the dais, so she leaves the dais and decides that she'll present the development to the commission. Can she do that? That's a tougher question. Under the Florida Code of Ethics, the answer is yes, she can. She can't vote, but she can do a lot of other things. She can even discuss from the dais before the vote. Under the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics, or Code of Ethics, however, she cannot participate in any manner on that subject that would tend to influence any of your other votes, So the answer would be no, because if she's presenting that, she is participating in a manner to try and influence your vote. She can't get involved in the discussion from up there, and she can't do it from down here either. She needs to stay completely out of it under our code. Under the Florida Code, yes, but under our code, she cannot. And that's an important distinction. People sometimes ask me when I've got a voting conflict, do I need to leave the dais? The answer is no. There's no rule that says you have to leave the dais. But we're not like the Florida Commission. As long as you don't vote, it doesn't really matter what you do on the dais. We have that prohibition against trying to influence votes. And I can just see a complaint coming in because one of you said something to the other in this discussion, and the person who's not allowed to be involved rolled their eyes. I will bet you that I get a complaint on that. That's an attempt to influence the vote. So my suggestion, it's only my suggestion, is go down and sit it out until they're done and then come back up, just to protect yourself. I don't think that that investigation is going to find that that's an influence, but the point is, if they make a complaint, we have to investigate it. Can she meet with building staff to review her proposed design and obtain their input as to whether it meets code standards? The answer to that's pretty clear. Of course she can. She's a business person. She better know what the code standards are. And how's she going to find that out if she doesn't meet with staff? What we say is, however, she cannot attempt to influence staff to lower the standards, for example. Our rules say they need 3 handicap spots, but you know, my parking lot isn't really that big. Can't we just go with 2? She cannot do that. She cannot do that because she's a city commissioner. And even if she doesn't say who she is, they know who she is. They work for the city. So she can listen, she can ask questions, she can get input. She cannot influence them in a manner to go outside the rules. We had a case like this in Lake Worth, actually, where there was a complaint on this, and I interviewed, because it was my case, I interviewed all 7 people in that meeting, and every one of them testified that no, they were just he was asking questions. He wanted to know what he needed to do to make sure he met standards. He absolutely can do that, so that was not founded. But you have to be careful if you're going to do that. And I realize that if you're a small business person, you may not have a choice but to be the person that meets with staff. Just be careful. All right, any questions on that? Contractual relationships, there is a general rule. You may not enter into contracts or provide goods or services to the public entity to work for or represent. Let me make this clear right now. When we're talking about the public entities, whether it be who lobbies that public entity, or you're a vendor of that public entity, or entering into contracts, I'm only talking to you all about the city of Pahokee. I'm technically a county employee, so I have to know I can't enter into contracts as a rule with anyone who's a vendor, or I can't enter into contracts to provide goods or services to the county. I could enter into a contract to provide them for Pahokee because I don't work for Pahokee. You can enter into contracts to provide whatever you wanted to the county. You can't provide it to Pahokee as a general rule. Now, there are some exceptions, and there's several. Let me go past that. Exceptions to that rule. Number one, your outside employer is another governmental entity. When I taught at Palm Beach State for many years, I always had to make sure, or I always had to be aware that Palm Beach State had contracts with the county. The reason I was able to do that is because even though I was entering into a contract with an agency that had contracts with the county, it didn't matter because they're a state agency. Let me back up here for a second because I didn't realize something. Oh, sorry. It's not only contracts in between you and the city. It also includes contracts for your outside employer in the city and your outside business, whether it's all your spouse's business or yours. There is a waiver system for an outside employer. There is none for a business. So if your spouse owns a business, at least 5% of it, she cannot enter into contracts with the city as long as you're on there, unless she meets one of the other exceptions. And the reason Palm Beach State employed me, but they had contracts with the county, so I might not have been able to enter into contracts with them, but it met one of the rules or the exceptions, which is they're also a governmental entity. When I taught at South University, which I did for several years also, I had to check every year to make sure they had those county contracts, which they didn't when I taught there. But I needed to be aware of that. There is a waiver system, but I have to know if that contract exists before I have to worry about a waiver system. All right. The second exception, sealed bid, low bid contracts. If your city offers a sealed bid, low bid contract, and there are some other exceptions, but we won't need to get into those right now, then it is possible that you can contract with your city under those conditions. But understand, sealed bid, low bid means exactly that. Most city contracts, or at least a lot of them, are sealed bid, but not necessarily low bid. You get to pick from the bottom three or wherever you want. That's entirely your decision how you do that. Sealed bid, low bid means that everybody turns their bids in, they're sealed, they're opened on the same date in public, and the lowest bid gets the job, period. If it's not that kind of contract, then this exception doesn't work. Emergency purchases, I used to talk about the hurricanes in 2004 and 2005, but then we had Irma, so we've had our own things here. When we are under a state of emergency, whether that's declared by the city or declared by the state or the county, however that happens, when we're under a state of emergency, these rules are relaxed. It doesn't matter that if you have crates of water and the city needs water, it doesn't matter if you're an official of the city or employed by the city. It's an emergency. The priority is to get people what they need at that point. We're not going to quibble about where we get it. Once that emergency is over, however, you have to go back to this. Sole source of supply. That's an interesting concept. We just had an advisory opinion on that last meeting of that. There are two ways to be the sole source, particularly in small towns. Let's say that you're an official, you're an elected official, but you own a plumbing company. So your plumbing company is headquartered in Pahokee, and Pahokee wants to do some plumbing work, and you want to bid for that job. It's not a sealed bid, low bid, but you want to at least present. If you're the only plumbing company that is located within Pahokee, then you are by definition the sole source. It's not fair that they have to hire someone from outside of Pahokee if they have one that is headquartered here in Pahokee. That's where their office is. If there are two, that doesn't apply, and you cannot take that job. It has to go to the other one if they decide they want to give it to them. But sole source is done by where your office may be, where you do business. The other way it's done is what you make. We had a guy who was a Delray Beach firefighter who made a saw blade that firemen thought was just a great saw blade. Now, I was a cop, so I don't know anything about firefighting tools, but apparently this was a great blade. And he patented that blade. And he sold that blade. He has his own website where he sold it. And the city came to us and said, that's like the best blade made, and it fits exactly what we need, and we want to buy it. So we looked at it, and we said, we don't tell the cities what they can and cannot buy in terms of what type of blade. However, if you want this blade, it has to be sole source. That's the only way you can do business with them. That's the only exception would apply. Well, if he's patented that blade, and he's the only one who can sell that blade, by definition, he is the sole source. No one else has the authority to sell it. And we don't have the authority to tell them, nah, there's almost as good a blade there, you gotta buy that one. No. If you want that blade, as long as it meets the criteria, you can buy it. So they did. That is what we mean by sole source. Either it's the only business within your city or your county, depending on which organization we're talking about, or it's something that no one else has access to and you want to use that one. If a contract is for less than $500 a year, you can provide goods or services to your city at less than $500 a year at any time you want. That's an exception. If you're an employee, you can meet the part-time exception. I'm probably not going to talk about that right here because you all are elected officials and this doesn't really apply to you, so I'm going to go past it. And you don't have police or fire because they're contracted, so that exception wouldn't apply either. So I'm going to go through past the, I'm going to go past the waiver system. But I want you to understand this also. The prohibition to entering into contracts with the public entity you serve applies to all of you because you're elected officials. It applies to employees unless the waiver applies. But if you're on a board, an advisory board, it may not apply. It's limited to when you're on an advisory board, because generally you're working for no pay, that prohibition is limited to things you oversee. If you're on the tree board, you can enter into contracts with the city to do plumbing. It's not a problem, because the tree board does not oversee plumbing. If you're on the plumbing board, which is just as likely because that's your expertise, then you can enter those contracts because you oversee them. All right, any questions on contracts? Is everybody lost now? No. Usually I ask employees, is everybody awake, but I can see you all because you're all close. All right, travel expenses. There is a prohibition written into our code that it is prohibited to accept travel expenses directed from a contractor, a vendor, a service provider of your city, or someone who is bidding for those rights. They've already filed a bid and they're trying to get those rights. Travel expenses directly from them. That's the key here. Usually the way that works is, and it worked this way at the sheriff's office, when someone pays for travel expenses, they pay the sheriff's office pays our travel expenses. That is fine, you can do that through the city at any time you want. You cannot have them pay that person directly, but there's even an exception to that. Either it's another government entity, or it's an organization that is a member, that your city is a member of, and that travel is related to that, or it is waived by you at an open meeting. If there's a situation where you want to pay someone directly, you can by simply waiving that. So there are three ways to not violate this, yet we've already had one violation. It was actually hard to do. An employee wishes to attend training in Orlando. This was a county employee, this is an actual case. Their supervisor said, no, I'm sending 5 other people, we don't want you to go up there. So this person took 2 days vacation, and they went anyway. I don't care what they do on their vacation, they can go to Orlando. They actually sat in on the meeting. We didn't even have a heartache with that because it didn't cost anybody any money. They were training there anyway. It was just an empty seat, so they sat in. But it was a 2-day course, and they stayed overnight, and guess who picked up the hotel bill? The vendor, which he did for all the employees that had been waived. But this one wasn't waived. So that is a violation of accepting travel expenses directly from them. What happened because of that? They got found guilty of violating the code of ethics. They were given a letter of reprimand. They also had to pay back $120 to the vendor for the hotel. Why? Because they're not entitled to keep that money. That was the more or less sentence. It was payment for money you're not allowed to have. which you will find in improper gift cases. That happens all the time. What you also need to recognize if you're an employee is that isn't necessarily the end of the story. Because if you have violated some rule, you are still an employee of the city or some policy of the city, and they still have a right, should they choose to discipline you on their own. We're a separate code. We don't do discipline of employees, we enforce a code. However, your city can still discipline you if they choose to do that. All right, disclosure of inside information, very, very easy. You are prohibited from using information that is gained through your job or your position if that information is not available to the rest of the general public, for your personal benefit or the benefit of any other person or entity. For example, staff members drafted several options for the extension of a major road. She realizes the commission has informally selected one option. Why does she realize that? Because while you all can't talk to each other under sunshine, and while employees are prohibited from passing information between you under sunshine, they can talk to all of you, so they're going to have a pretty good idea what your thinking is long before you have that idea, because you can't talk about it. So the question for her was, and by the way, this is not a real case, can she buy the land surrounding where that road is going, hoping to sell it as a premium? She's going to get a premium because there's a road going through it now. That's more valuable land now. Can she do that? And the answer is no. That is information she gained through her job. That information is not available to the public. Why? Because you all haven't voted on that yet. So it couldn't be available to the public. She cannot do that as a violation of this section. Could she tell someone else to do it? No. It's the same violation. If at the end, let me back up. If at the end of this, after you guys vote and it's all out there, and then the next day she goes down and tries to buy this land, can she do that? The day after your meeting? Absolutely. She doesn't lose her constitutional rights. She certainly can buy anything anybody else can buy. She couldn't set up financing ahead of time. She couldn't do a lot of things ahead of time. But once that's out, the fact that she moves faster is immaterial. Yeah, she's thought about it longer, but it doesn't matter. It's no longer public information or private information. It's available to the public, and if she acts on it, she can do that. So, finally, nepotism. Employees, officials, and advisory board members are prohibited from appointing, employing, promoting, advancing, or advocating to benefit any close family, relative, or spouse or domestic partner. Which means, does that mean that if you're sitting on the board of director or the council commission and they're going to appoint someone city manager, if it's your brother, he can't be city manager? Doesn't mean that at all. It means you can't vote on it. You can't be involved in it. You have to stay out of it. But whoever the rest of the council wants a city manager, they have every right to put who they want a city manager. You just can't be involved in that process. Also understand that small towns under 35,000, this is the same under state law, can be appointed to advisory boards as long as those boards don't have zoning responsibilities or land planning responsibilities, even if they're related to you. And the reason for that is advisory board members don't get paid. It's very difficult to get people to volunteer for these things, and as your towns are smaller, it becomes more and more difficult. So at the point that you're under 35,000 population, you can now make these appointments even if they're related to you, as long as they're not land planning or zoning responsibilities. But that's only to advisory boards. All right, that's the end of that section. We're going to quickly go through the gift law. This is a very easy one. Kickbacks and bribes, don't take them. Violation of our code, but that's not your problem. It's a felony. That's really your problem, regardless of the amount. If you're a government official or employee, it is a felony to take a kickback or a bribe. Generally, as government employees and officials, it is, well, it is actually not, you're not allowed to take tips either. There is one exception to that. So let's talk about that a minute. There's a waiter at a municipal golf course restaurant. I know at least 2 municipal golf course restaurants, which makes those employees city employees. Customers usually leave them money over the amount of the bill in the form of a tip. So the question is, may he accept that tip? The answer is yes. because that is the one exception, and I'll tell you how it came about. The Village of North Palm Beach asked us that very question in 2011. Hey, we've got a restaurant and we've got waiters and bartenders, and you're telling them they can't take tips? Because we won't have anybody working here if that's the case. And the commission said, city employees specifically hired for service-related jobs where the negotiated compensation is hourly wages plus tips, and this is the most important part, where such arrangements reflect the standard compensation in the industry, may continue to accept tips. What they were basically saying, and I didn't give you the whole letter, but the crux of it is this. In those situations, they do not consider tips tips. They consider tips as part of your salary, because that's how it's negotiated. Every waitress and bartender works for tips. My daughter, who's finishing nursing, well, maybe never finished, but who's still in nursing school, also bartends. She doesn't make any money bartending from the owner. She makes money on tips. That's how. So that's what they were saying here. We don't look at that as being tips. In this case, it's part of your compensation, so it is not prohibited. That is the only exception at this point. That again is you cannot take, give, or receive a gift of any value, when that gift is based on an action, omission, or even promise of some official action that you are taking or could take, some legal duty that you are going to perform for them or could perform, or some legal duty that you are going to violate or could be violated. Those are known as kickbacks and bribes, and they are always unlawful and always under our code. Generally under the gift law prohibitions, there is a $100 gift limit annually, and that limit is aggregate throughout the time period. If that gift is from anybody who is a vendor of your city or trying to become a vendor of your city, they have an actual contract or a bid in, or if they are a lobbyist who lobbies your city, or if they are the person who pays the lobbyist or employs the lobbyist to lobby your city. Now, when I look at vendors and lobbyists, I said, I've got to be concerned if they're vendors or lobbyists in the county. Doesn't matter to me if they're vendors or lobbyists in Pahokee. The opposite is true for you. If they're not vendors of your city or lobbyists who lobby your city, and I don't care if they're professional lobbyists, if they don't lobby your city or they're not registered to lobby your city, they are not lobbyists as far as you're concerned. Why? Because if they don't lobby your city, you can't do anything for them. So there's no reason for them to give you a gift to do something when they don't even present cases to your city. So that's what I mean by that, so keep that in mind. We're not going to talk about non-state reporters much. Just know that if you are an employee of the city other than the city manager, and there are certain other people, you report any gifts that need to be reported yearly. You guys, however, are state reporters, which means, and you'll have to talk to your counsel about how the reporting requirements are, but it's basically quarterly. So if you have a gift that needs to be reported on a state form, it's quarterly. And once you do that, you need to send a copy of it to us. As you file it with the state, you have to send a copy of it to us too. All right, also remember it's generally prohibited to solicit or accept any gift from a vendor or a lobbyist that's more than $100 in the aggregate for any year, even if you are not the final recipient of the gift. A gift passed on to someone else may be considered a pass-through gift. Let me give you an example. My kids, two of my kids, put in for scholarship for the Police Benevolent Association because I'm still a lifetime member with them, and they got scholarship money. I had to report that as a gift. Why? Because their ability to accept that money was dependent on my being a member of the PBA. If I was not a member, they would not have been allowed to apply. So that is a pass-through gift through my membership to them. It's not a prohibited gift because the PBA does not lobby the county and they're not a vendor of the county. But it is a pass-through gift that I had to report because their money was based on my ability to get it for them by being a member. Well, how does this apply to monies for a charitable purpose? I would tell you in 2011, I'm going to go past that in a second. In 2011, the answer was you can't take that money, even for a charitable purpose, from any lobbyist or vendor. That was the general answer. What happened in 2011 when we changed the code to bring in the cities is they changed that. We put an exception in. Why did they do that? Because we were frankly killing the charities, and that was never the purpose of this. So they changed it to a different way to do it. There are two ways that you can deal with these types of things. You can either prohibit them, which is what it was in 2011, you can't take this money, or you can simply make them transparent, and that's what they chose to do under the exception now. You can, in fact, solicit from anyone who is a city vendor or a city lobbyist for a gift of more than $100 as a donation to a charitable fund, as long as you file what we call a charitable solicitation log. You have to be transparent that you did ask them for money, that you got this money, and where this money went. If you file that log, you're fine. It is an exception to the rule. So you now can file a charitable solicitation log, and at that time you can't solicit these people for money for a charitable purpose. It can't be for yourself, but for a charitable purpose. Also understand that you can't use county municipal resources to conduct this solicitation. Basically, you can't do it at work. And number two, you cannot solicit anyone who has a current proposal that is still outstanding. So if it's something you haven't voted on yet, you can't solicit them. But if they're current vendors who don't have any outstanding proposals or lobbyists, you can't solicit them. All right. I'm not going to go through this because it only applies to non-state reporters, and you're all state reporters. Local officers, department managers, as a rule, your quarterly reporting requirement, you send your form to the Florida Commission and you send a copy of it to us. Understand the prohibitions under the gift law of accepting gifts over $100 from lobbyists or vendors, even locally, apply to you all. But the reporting requirements are the state's reporting requirements. So you can't ask us, should I report this? I don't know the answer. You have to ask your city attorney, because that's under state law. Local reporting individuals. Contingent fee prohibitions don't really apply to you. Honesty in applications, what that basically means is if you're applying for a job or a promotion or something, you can't lie on that. It's against the code. But anyone with HR background will tell you that won't be your problem because we'll fire you if you lie on these things. So anyway. All right. Remember, the Commission on Ethics is a civil code enforcement board. We can issue letters of reprimand or instruction. We can fine up to $500 per violation, and we have fined as much as $1,000 for 2 violations, but frankly, that person deserved to be fined $1,000 for what they did. And we can issue order restitution, which was what happened with the money that had to be put back to the vendor for the hotel. That was restitution. They had no right to that money. They had to be given back. We can give that. Also understand that if you knowingly and willfully violate the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics, you can have it, we can file it with the state attorney's office, or at least send it to them. They decide whether to file it. And if they file it as a first-degree misdemeanor and you're convicted, you could face up to 1 year in jail or a fine of up to $1,000. Also keep in mind that your government employer, if you're an employee, still always maintains that ability to discipline you, because these are code violations, they're not discipline issues. All right, finally, our last slide. I hear that all the time. I'm doing this 8 years, I'm used to that, it's okay. So, this is our last slide. We're the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. Our motto is ask first, act later, because we want you to ask us first. That's our hotline number, that's our email, that's our website. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. As I was telling you, I don't have any idea what those things mean, but I have been told by the younger members of my staff that you can do them. So you should. Does anyone have any questions before I let you continue with your meeting?
I do have one. You mentioned us as commissioners talking, that we can't talk.
Well,
Now, one of the understandings that I had, just to make my question clear, I was under the thought that we could not talk concerning agenda items.
I don't really, I brought that up only as a way to show how a staff would know something that you guys didn't. However, that's a sunshine question. Sunshine's a state law, so I would defer to your attorney for that. Basically, the general rule, as I understand it, and I have to do sunshine for my group too, is that you can't talk about something that is likely to come before. It doesn't have to be on an agenda already, but it's likely to come before you. That's, I think, the general rule. Is that correct? I didn't mean you couldn't talk, because I've actually had complaints at a small level. I won't say with small time, because these two commissioners were having breakfast every Sunday at the restaurant with their families. Well, they've known each other for 30 years, number one. What were they talking about? I mean, sunshine isn't ours anyway, but what were they talking about? Well, we don't know. Well, they're 30-year-old friends. I mean, they're allowed to have breakfast. There's only one restaurant around there. Where are they supposed to eat? Nobody's allowed to go to breakfast? Anyway, but I understand your point. It's sometimes confusing. I would still always defer to your city attorney for that, because that's not my specialty. Anyone else? I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
Get into it specifically. All right, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. We're having a staff, Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brennan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're having a staff commissioner retreat, and certainly we'd like to invite you back out at some point. I know you had to rush through some things, but just to give us time to ask and have you answer some questions would be helpful to us in the future.
I absolutely will, and understand, by the way, if you take the 4-hour training that the local League of Cities does, and
Right.
I'm also there.
Okay.
One of the agreements I have with them is that you don't have to do this hour if you're in that particular class, because I put my portion into theirs. Which saves you an hour. Instead of having to do 5 hours a year or 5 hours of training, you only have to do 4. But I'd be more than happy to come out anytime. Clearly, I love to talk, so
Yeah.
it's good.
All right, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, due to time restraint, we're going to go and bypass the discussion concerns of the City Commission in this particular workshop, and we'd like to adjourn this meeting and start our regular commission meeting in just 2 minutes. Please don't leave the dais. If you got to stretch, have to go to the restroom real quick, please do that, but we want to adjourn really quickly. So this meeting is officially adjourned. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
City Manager,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin.
Yes.
I call this City Commission meeting of Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018, to order at 7:06 p.m. Will you please stand for the invocation led by Commissioner Everett, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you again. You've been wonderful to us, and we are grateful for this meeting that we're about to participate in. We pray for your wisdom. We pray that you would grant us knowledge and, more importantly, understanding, that we may do what is in the best interest of our city and her citizens. So, God, we pray that you would be with us, walk with us, strengthen us for the task that lies ahead. We pray for a meeting of the minds. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Bab,
Present.
Commissioner Everett,
Present.
Commissioner Hill,
Present.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Present.
Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Walker. She said she don't know. City Manager,
Here.
City Attorney,
Here.
Deputy Freeman,
Present.
City Clerk, present.
Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, staff. And thank each of you all for being here tonight to participate in our regular scheduled commission meeting of Tuesday, April the 24th, 2018. I will ask that if you haven't already, please silence your cell phones, and if you would, keep your talking to a minimum, because we do have sensitive microphone system in here, and it picks up a lot of the sounds that are occurring. We'd like to recognize Lisa Wilson from Mayor McKinley office. Glad you can be here, Ms. Wilson. And also Sharina Coleman, Vice President of the Business Retention for the Glades under the Business Development Board. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. And again, thank each of you all. You're special. We always try to recognize elected officials or their staff when they are present. We're going to move right along our agenda. We're going to make sure that you're aware that you need to fill out comments cards at least between now and 15 minutes prior to the meeting starting. After that, 15 minutes elapsed, we won't be accepting any additional comments cards. You have to wait till the following meeting to get your comments in. So if you haven't already, and if you're planning on speaking or want to comment, please begin to fill out your comment cards at this time. We're going to go into the additions, deletions, and approval of the agenda item. City Manager, are there any addition to the agenda that was presented earlier?
Thank you, Mayor, Commission, residents, thank you for coming out, visitors, thank you for joining us. Yes, ma'am, we have some revisions here for tonight. It's not on the public agenda, but we did have an add-on under the resolutions. We're going to move that conversation down to the city attorney. That's number 2 on your agenda. We want to delete Pahokee Middle School's robotics team. We're not recognizing them tonight. And I would like to, if it pleases the mayor and the commission, I'd like to move up the presentation for Lawn of the Month. We can do that now, you know, following additions and deletions. I know they've been here quite some time, so we don't have to wait for that for presentations if that pleases the commission. And I think that's it. That is it. Yeah.
Hearing the add-ons and the adjustment of the agenda order, including the resolution that would be actually presented under the city attorney report. What's your pleasure, City Commission?
I'd like to offer a motion that we accept our agenda with the with the additions, deletions that were recommended.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker, Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The agenda is approved as presented. Now we'll have citizen comments, agenda items only. Madam Clerk, are there any comments cards from the citizens on
Yes,
agenda
sir.
items?
Yes, sir. First comment card, Mr. Mark Miller.
I'd like to give my 3 minutes to Robert Lambert.
Okay. Second comment card, Mr. Robert Lambert.
Okay, Mr. Lambert, you can step up to the podium.
I'll pass for now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, third comment card, Mr. Robert Miller. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, fourth comment card, Miss Linda Moss.
And I think I marked the box wrong. I think both of mine's gonna be under general comments.
Okay,
Sorry, I should have corrected it.
so, all right.
City
That's it.
Attorney, Chair recognizes City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, when citizens put in comment cards with regard to agenda items, they should mark on the card the agenda item they wish to speak at, and then they should be called during the discussion on that item.
Okay.
So, for instance, I believe the threesome who gave their time all to one guy probably want to talk about the marina.
Okay, great.
And the other people, I'm not sure if they indicated what they want to talk about that's on the agenda.
Thank you for that clarification. Now we'll move to the approval of the minutes. We have March 27, 2018, regular scheduled commission meeting. What's your pleasure, City Commission? We have the approval of the March 27, 2018, regular commission meeting.
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes for March 27, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett for the approval of the March 27, 2018 regular scheduled meeting. What's your pleasure, City Commission? Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
No, I wasn't here.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The March 27 minutes of March 27 passes by a 4-1 vote. Next, we'll have the April 10th, 2018 regular scheduled commission meeting. What's your pleasure, City Commission?
Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion that we receive the minutes with necessary corrections if there be any.
I'll second.
This has been moved by Commissioner Everett and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption and approval of the minutes of April the 10th, 2018. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The minutes of April 10th, 2018 has been passed by unanimous vote. We don't have any consent agenda items. We don't have any ordinance. We have one resolution that we'll be discussing at this time, Resolution 2018-18. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, resolution number 2018-18 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, authorizing
Thank you, City Attorney. City Commissioners, having had Resolution 2018-18 properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to move. First, before I do this, is there any way you can explain that? Can we have it explained, just briefly?
Yes, City
30
Attorney.
seconds.
Sub-recipient agreement is monies that flow through Palm Beach County to the city from, I believe, the state, and it is for the senior program. And I believe it's in the amount of $44,000.
Thank you, City Attorney.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to move, Resolution 2018-18.
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Hill and properly seconded by Vice Mayor Mervin for the adoption of Resolution 2018-18. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker, Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Resolution 2018-18 passes by a unanimous vote. On our agenda, we have Resolution 2018-19. That will be under the City Attorney's report. We'll bring that up at that time. Next, we have public hearing on ordinance 2018-01. City Attorney, before I open the public hearing, could you read this again into the record?
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2018-01 is here for second reading. It has been properly advertised. It's an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pahokee, Florida, establishing Section 2-272, Paren 6 of the Code of Laws and Ordinances of the City of Pahokee, providing for the waiver of competitive bidding for procurements where funding sources for the project may be jeopardized by the length of the normal procurement process, providing for severability, inclusion in the code, and effective date. This ordinance also requires the source of the funds to consent to the use of this process.
Thank you, City Attorney. I would now open the public hearing on ordinance 2018-01. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this ordinance? Any comments? Hearing none, public hearing is closed. City Commission, having had ordinance 2018-01 on its second reading, properly read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
Rebecca, I make motion to accept ordinance 2018-01.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett for the adoption of ordinance 2018-01. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote, Commissioners?
Yes.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Walker, Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. Ordinance 2018-01 passes on second reading by a unanimous vote. Now we have a proclamation, National Small Business Week. City Attorney.
Okay,
As soon as I find it, Mayor.
here you go.
Sir.
Thank you, sir, for the delay. This is a proclamation, National Small Business Week. Whereas America's progress has been driven by pioneers who think big, take risks, and work hard. And whereas from the storefront shops that anchor Main Street to the high-tech startups that keep America on the cutting edge, small businesses are the backbone of our economy and the cornerstone of our nation's promise. And whereas small business owners and Main Street businesses have energy and passion for what they do, and whereas when we support small business, jobs are created and local communities preserve their unique culture. And whereas because the country's 30 million small businesses create nearly 2 out of 3 jobs in our economy, we cannot resolve ourselves to create jobs and spur the economic growth in America without discussing ways to support our entrepreneurs. And whereas the President of the United States has proclaimed National Small Business Week every year since 1963 to highlight the programs and services available to entrepreneurs throughout the U.S. Small Business Administration and other government agencies. And whereas the City of Pahokee supports and joins in this national effort to help America's small businesses do what they do best, grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now therefore be resolved on behalf of the City Commission and the citizens of Pahokee that by virtue of the authority vested in the Mayor of Pahokee, does hereby proclaim April 29th through May 5th as National Small Business Week.
Thank you, City Attorney. Commissioners, having had the proclamation of National Small Business Week read into the minutes, what's your pleasure?
Mayor, I said I will make a motion to accept the proclamation of National Small Business Week.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Everett for the acceptance of the proclamation of National Small Business Week. Call for questions. Hearing none. Are you ready for vote, Commissioners? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin.
Yes.
Commissioner Everett.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Walker. Commissioner Walker.
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The proclamation passes by a unanimous vote. Now we'll have the Lawn of the Month presentation. If I would ask Commissioners come down on the floor so we can present the certificate to the person for Lawn of the Month.
Excuse me. Are you being hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Okay. Because I was mute.
I will have our Vice Mayor do the presentation. As Mayor, anytime I'm out, normally the Vice Mayor steps in, so I have to give her a lot of practice. I'll present the check, though.
Okay. Okay, I'm before you do the Lawn of the Month. I'm asking Ernesto Vasquez to come forth. This is presented to Ernesto Vasquez, 112 North Barfield Highway, Pahokee, Florida, 33476, in recognition of beautifying the community on presented this 24th day of April 2018 with Mayor Keith Babb, Vice Mayor Clara Mervin, Commissioner Bennett L. Everett III, Commissioner Felicia Hill, Commissioner Diane Walker, City Manager Chandler Williams. But I would just like to say, I pass your house every day going to work. How do you keep the grass so green? I thought mine be green. You got my water bill very high. This is presented to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
And again, on behalf of the Pahokee City Commission, Vice Mayor Mervin, Commissioner Everett, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Walker, and myself, I'd like to present you with this check of $75 and encourage you that you would spend this money within the city of Pahokee to support our small businesses. And we again appreciate you. If you want to say a few words, you can, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys do to me, and thank you very much to all of you.
You're welcome.
Come in the middle.
Okay, we'll move into the mayor's report. We're quickly going down the agenda. I would just like to thank everyone who participated in the Great American Cleanup on Saturday, April the 21st. I think was a huge success. We had over 100 people sign up and participate. Even had a judge, a candidate out there. Just a nice event. I think all the city staff who took time to help clean up the city. As you know, Saturday is not a working day. Most of these staff come out. They don't be compensated a lot of time for their time. Hopefully the city manager can give them some type of comp time for that effort, but we certainly appreciate our staff. We can't do it without them. The Chamber of Commerce did an excellent job helping assist to organize this. This is an event they put on and assist with the city every year. We just had so many people, I just won't try to name everyone who came out, but we do appreciate you. We knew who you are, and we thank you for your effort in helping to beautify our city. So let's continue to keep the city of Pahokee clean, safe, and beautiful for all to work, live, play, and visit. Pahokee Pride, Pahokee United. Thank you so much. Also, I would like to get the City Commission blessing. The mayor has an opportunity to present keys to the city, and it's normally a resident who don't live here, a citizen who don't live here, that support the city efforts in moving forward and progress Pahokee. You can see them mostly all the time. So what we do in recognition of that individual is to present them with a key to the city. So this will be a more prestigious award. I don't normally do this, but once a year. Last year we presented it to County Mayor Melissa McKinley. And this year I'm proposing to present the key to the city to Marsha Andrews. And if I can get the City Commission blessing, that would help.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
And I don't know if the city manager, I'm gonna say city attorney, we're gonna discuss this, but since it's been brought to my attention, I wanna bring it up under the mayor's report because we do need to plan a meeting, workshop to discuss this. The city manager is proposing an amendment to his city contract. There are 4 items on this contract that is being proposed for commissioners' consideration. Last year I moved through it pretty fastly. This year I really think we need to sit down and have a workshop, possibly, and I'm just throwing this out for suggestion, next Tuesday at 6, and our recommendations, whether we agree on any of these topics or not, we can then at our next regular commission meeting, which I believe is May 8th, vote on whatever changes that we recommend. If the city commission is ready to move forward in this discussion, we can, but I think a workshop would be barely an appropriate sense you don't have the information at hand at this particular time, what's being requested. So if I don't hear an objection, if everyone available for,
I have a question.
yes,
You talking about the city, his contract is what you're referring to?
yes, ma'am.
And you're asking for what now?
I'm asking for a workshop to discuss his request of the city to amend his contract for the following item. I'll just mention really quickly for you, just to
Mayor.
give you.
Mayor, I think what we wanted to do tonight is just to bring it to your attention and not go into detail tonight. We had a discussion about having a special workshop. I told the city attorney I think it's best that I can relay that information individually to you guys, and then you can come back. We got 2 weeks before the next commission meeting, and I can relay it individually. And if you have any conversations or amendments that you want to talk about, we can talk about them then. I don't think tonight's appropriate to release that information tonight. I think we need to hold back on that so we can have some individual conversations on it.
Okay.
I also mentioned I don't really think a workshop is necessary. I think me and the city attorney can work through it appropriately, and then at the time when we do present it, if there are some revisions at that time over the next 2 weeks, again, we can have those one-on-one conversations moving forward.
Okay.
But that's up to the commission.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I think the items in here would require a workshop. I'm not sure if the commissioners would agree on that. It would help lessen the conversation and the discussion during a regular commission meeting. But I think these are some items that would call for some discussion. That's just my opinion on it. But we'll set up a workshop. If commission, once they receive the information, don't feel there's a need for a workshop, then whatever questions or concerns that may occur will be discussed at a regular commission meeting.
Is there, Mayor, is there a way, I know we don't have it tonight, but is there, I don't know what the items are, but is there a way that that we can, like once we get it, we'll have like about a week or 2 weeks to view it, that we can individually go into him and tell him our concerns with it, and then bring, work it out that way?
Yeah, that's fine. You can have one-on-one with the city manager, but again, it would have to be transparent as far as voting on the final outcome.
Right.
So even if you do some negotiation
And then
with
it will
him,
come forward to
it's-
the,
right.
exactly.
Right. Okay, so we'll move on. Gee, that's the end of my report, actually.
Short?
We're moving to the city manager report.
Yeah, we moving on.
Short. Thank you, Mayor, Commission, citizens, residents, visitors. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I didn't get an answer regarding that. I get an answer. Are we going to have a workshop or not?
No, ma'am. What we're going to do is release the information to the commissioners individually, and based on their questions, if they have considerable questions, if we need a special meeting, the mayor will call one, but most likely we'll hopefully have those questions answered at the next commission meeting. But you will get that information individually.
What about the workshop? What about the workshop? We're not going to have that?
No, ma'am, not at this time. If one's required, the mayor will make that recommendation if one's required.
I don't agree, but okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walker.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I'm going to be short. Mayor had a short report, so I'm going to be short as well. I wanted to announce something from one of our U.S. departments. out of Washington, D.C., but they told me not to announce it tonight because the secretary is going to be announcing it tomorrow at a major news conference in Atlanta. So I'm going to hold back on that. But it's great news for the city of Pahokee in those regards. I really wanted to release it tonight, but they told me not to because we'll probably be getting some calls on it from the media pretty soon. So I'm going to hold back on that until they release it tomorrow. Great news for the city of Pahokee, however. I know that's teasing you, but that's great news.
Where can we go to hear it from?
The U.S. Department of Environmental Protection. You can, probably so, yeah.
You said environmental protection?
Yes. So that's good news for the city of Pahokee. Thanks to our grant department. We applied for that last year. Never mind.
Keep talking.
We're moving forward. We're moving forward with our Commissioner's Park. I know that's one of the state-funded projects that we received last year. We took our time with this particular project because we did not have the funding appropriated to us up front. They did release those funds to us, thankfully, so we're moving forward with the bid so we can start working on Commissioner's Park. There's a timeline with that. There is a timeline to have those renovations completed by the end of this year, so that's good news. And Glade Citizens Villa, that bid is also out as well, so we're waiting for bids on that response to get the repairs done over at Glade Citizens Villa, which is stormwater and, of course, resurfacing the entire community. So we're excited about that moving forward. Interior renovations for parks and recs. As you know, we do have surtax dollars, and some of those dollars are for small renovations in and around parks and recreation. What we wanted to do is do some painting of a lot of the classrooms, replace the flooring in the senior room, address the issues over at the cafeteria. And so we're going to be doing that this summer, so there'll be some reorganization of Everglades Prep, maybe for about a week or so, as we do some upkeep over there as far as painting and replacing some of the things that are broken as far as the exterior of this building that we're in and the adjacent building, and of course, again, our classrooms, our senior room. We've already fixed the roof, so that was last year or the year before. And again, we're researching what we need to do with our football field. That's a very large commitment that we are looking at. So we're doing our due diligence on that before we bring it to the commission. There's some things the city attorney has to look at as well before we bring it to the commission. But we're fine-tuning that now for a conversation, possibly at the next commission meeting, just to let you know. Outside of that, this past weekend, we had the Great American Cleanup. We had a great turnout. Staff did a very good job. You notice a lot when you walk the streets of Pahokee and you're cleaning up. And there are some things that code enforcement realizes that they have to address. We have to tighten up some of our compliances in the areas of our vendors who are not permitted to operate in our city, and some other things as far as upkeep around your personal businesses and residences. There was a lot to pick up on Saturday morning here in the city of Pahokee. I mean, extremely a lot. And that goes to some of the respect of, how we treat our community and, what we should expect from our neighbors. But code enforcement understands that they have a job to do. So when you see those trucks out there and you see code enforcement, please be kind to them, because they're trying to improve, this community, our value in this community, and make this a nice, beautiful place, not like it is now. But there are certain compliances that we have to adhere to as residents, as businesses, as visitors. And Saturday just reminded me, it was a stark reminder to me that there are just a few things in a couple of corridors of the city that we have to focus on to get people to improve their practices of how they treat our environment. So just keep that in mind as you see our code enforcement officers out there in the community doing their jobs. It's imperative that we create that environment for economic development. And so we need all of your help. The Lawn of the Month, that's just a small piece of what everyone can do along themselves to do in this community to make it a better community for economic development. So we need more lawns on the month like that, Mr. Vasquez, in this community. And you work very hard on that. I actually watched you do that project last year sometime, and we didn't have, I think we had lawn of the month occurring at that time, but we didn't recognize you. And we have other lawns of the month that we know should be recognized, and we're going to get to those other addresses. Some of you have walked into City Hall and actually provided us those addresses to some of those lawns and some of those interior renovations on homes. So we need things like that because that assists this city in moving forward. It gives us that opportunity to promote this city in a much larger way than we ever have before. So thank you, Mr. Vasquez, for that. We really appreciate your commitment to your home and to this community. That's it, Mayor, unless someone has any additional questions.
Thank you, City Manager. Are there any additional questions for the City Manager? Again, thank you, sir. And we're moving to the City Attorney report.
Mr. Mayor, you have a lengthy design-build agreement that I drafted along with pricing that has been provided by TechnoMarine on each of the items that the city was considering with respect to the marina, and it's all in your package. If you look to the Exhibit A in the contract, you'll see the pricing. As you recall, we had an agreement with TechnoMarine where they were to undertake certain tasks on behalf of the city that related to the design and building of a deck to go behind the restaurant and the design of a pier, fishing pier, and associated parking to go along with that fishing pier. It's my understanding from talking with the manager that the fishing pier is no longer an item, at least that the city manager wants to pursue at this time. Subsequently, TechnoMarine was given an order to suspend their work with respect to the fishing pier probably 2.5 weeks ago now. So the commission tonight needs to decide, one, what is to be done with this fishing pier. It appears that the fishing pier has a design and construction timetable of about 16 to 18 months. So it wouldn't fall within the scope of the length of the grant that we currently have, and clearly wouldn't be able to fall on that scope at this point in time. So the issue is, at this point, what work to proceed with TechnoMarine. And you have it all itemized in the backup. Now, TechnoMarine was to give us their best prices on this work, and I know their representatives are here tonight, and I'm not familiar with the bidding process they used or how they arrived at these prices. But that's what's presented to you for your decision tonight, and I think your city manager is going to make a recommendation on how to proceed on these items.
City Commission, questions? First question. At our last commission meeting, we had asked the city attorney, which is yourself, to work with TechnoMarine to come up with an agreement that they would complete work on the money that they was advanced. They was given a total of $150,000, $25,000 of which they had actually did work. So it was my understanding after that particular meeting was that they would give us pricing on the remaining $125,000. In addition to that, we had estimated that the work that we would be requiring would probably cost an additional $20,000 for a total of $170,000 of work. And we wouldn't proceed any further with TechnoMarine until that portion of the work was completed. This particular contract, I know a lot has been going into this as far as coming up with figures and amounts. My question is this in excess of what we discussed at our last commissioner meeting about trying to at least get the 125 covered that we had already advanced?
Yeah, well, if you take all of the items that are priced, it's greatly in excess of that. However, the commission can see that you can take the items one at a time and add up the prices on them to see what it comes to, the $150,000 or $170,000 that you spoke about last week. They also gave us a price on all of those items and also repairing the docks at the marina, which was a large sum, $956,000.
Commissioners, do y'all have any questions? While we're looking over that a little thoroughly, city manager, like at this time, what would be your recommendation? You have a basically amended contract before you, given, if the commission is in agreement, giving TechnoMarine permission to proceed with work that's a little more in excess of what we had originally agreed on at our last commission meeting. So just asking for your recommendation.
Mayor and Commission, based on our last meeting, my thoughts are the same. I did look at this agreement that the city attorney presented, and you know, they're requiring additional deposits on these projects, which we're not going to expend. That's not the practice of a municipality at this rate. And the lump sum of $956,798 with 35% deposit up front with 6 months, complete within 6 months of receipt of deposit. That's just not something we can honor. And my opinion about TechnoMarine is that they're a great company. They probably build great marinas. But for these projects that were on land, that were more renovations than construction, that have not taken place, that I went back and researched since February when I was asking them to get the work, because I didn't have that in front of me at the time. My confidence is lost in TechnoMarine for the on-land renovations. And so this new agreement that's been presented, I can't support it. I can't support it in any fashion for the city of Pahokee. So my recommendation, if they said they've done $25,000 worth of work and nothing else has moved forward, then I recommend you cancel this agreement and recoup your $125 on the work not done. That's my recommendation.
Going back to commissions, any questions, clarifications, any comments?
My biggest concern was just the 150. What happened with getting the 150? How we go from the 150 to the 900 and some thousand?
Maybe the city attorney can kind of enlighten us a little on that. Did TechnoMarine just refuse to negotiate as far as a 150 was concerned, that work, and negotiated a larger extent of the actual contract? I'm not sure what happened between, you know, our last meeting and this meeting.
I asked TechnoMarine to give us a specific price on each item so that the commission could determine if those prices were okay, if they were in the ballpark, and determine if any of those items are things that you wanted to proceed with.
Okay.
Now, also ask them to go ahead and price the dock repairs, because it is apparent to me that the fishing pier is off the table for now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, what I'm gathering, TechnoMarine is really saying that they're ready to put a shelf in the ground and they can do the complete work. It's gonna be our decision whether or not we actually will agree to that. Again, initially we talked about trying to recruit, and I certainly was concerned about how would we get our $150,000 that we had advanced. And one of the ways was doing that was to find something that they could actually complete that would cost up to the $150,000, and that way that would satisfy us from not needing in the event that some type of lawsuit occurred. At least we're getting the money that we advanced. Now we're in a situation where they're putting a proposal that they want to do basically the entire work. I don't know, does our city manager have a plan to move this project forward? That would be based on having a company ready, and that the state would allow us to not go through our regular bidding process and not delay the project. If that can occur, then I think we'll be comfortable with maybe terminating this particular contract and moving forward. However, if that's not possible, then you may want to consider, just saying, you may want to consider entertaining this particular contract. Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin has been recognized.
Mayor Bab, we had a long discussion in 2 meetings on the same agreement, and it's time to move forward. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make the motion, Mayor, that we cancel the contract with TechnoMarine. And it already says in their thing that they owe us $125,000. So that we would ask that they would refund us the $125,000 in 14 calendar days, and allow the city manager to manage the project so we can move forward with the projects on the marina. That's my motion.
Second.
It has been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly seconded by Commissioner Everett to cancel the agreement with TechnoMarine and have the city manager take on the responsibility of moving this project forward. Call for questions.
Now, if this was to get terminated, then we were able to just move forward with.
The city manager would probably move forward with individual contracts on items. Under the ordinance that you just passed, he would not have to go out to competitive bid on those items. However, the commission would have to approve each of those contracts before the work began.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, Commissioner, are you ready for a vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker? Commissioner Walker? Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The motion to terminate TechnoMarine contract has been passed by a unanimous 4-0 vote. I'm not sure what happened to Commissioner Walker. We may have got disconnect. City Attorney, you may continue with your reports.
No other items, Mayor.
Thank you, City Attorney. We have no old business. On the new business, we have the Palm Beach County League of Cities voting delegate form. We have the city manager kind of explain this, but I think this is a form, a voting form that for the League of Cities that we designate a voting delegate to the monthly league meetings. Yeah, normally it's the mayor. We need to have alternates, second maybe the vice mayor, and then another commissioner who normally or generally attend some of the monthly meetings.
That's the, you talking about the Palm Beach? Which one you talking about now?
Palm Beach
Beach.
County League of Cities.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I need someone to put forth a motion, and maybe for a third alternate, list that individual, the commissioner, as far as the alternate voting.
So the motion is to, can't find my paper.
Customarily to appoint the mayor as a voting delegate, the vice mayor would be an alternate, and say for instance, Commissioner Hill or Commissioner Everett would be a third alternate for, as far as voting.
Okay, so I'm motioning that, okay, help me out. I'm motioning that the mayor and vice mayor is a voting delegate, and then we will have Commissioner Everett as the third voting delegate.
Okay.
That's,
You can
I
actually
risk
put
that.
all the
That's-
commissioners.
You're motioning that the mayor be designated as a voting delegate to Palm Beach County League
Okay.
of Cities. The vice mayor would be the first alternate, and Commissioner Everett would be the second alternate.
okay.
Now, with respect to seniority, it wouldn't be here.
Don't touch that.
I just like to speak, you know, to what's right and respect to
Yeah,
seniority.
I
yeah.
think all the commissioners.
I'm the
can
junior commissioner.
Don't touch that.
I think with Commissioner Hill's job sometime, it may prevent her
Mayor.
from attending some
Mayor,
of
the
the
clerk-
meetings during the day, so.
The clerk has said, in lieu of the mayor and the vice mayor not being here, then all the other commissioners are alternates.
Okay, we'll reframe it at that.
That's why I said.
Any of the other remaining commissioners will serve as alternates. So we'll list all 5 of the commissioners there.
So we gotta do the motion over?
No, you done made the
No,
motion.
we made a motion, it's good enough.
Did you second, Commissioner Everett?
Second.
Judge is called.
It's been moved by Commissioner Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Everett that the mayor be designated as the voting delegate for the League of Cities, Palm Beach County League of Cities. The vice mayor would be the first alternate, Commissioner Everett would be the second, and the remaining commissioners would be an alternate as they are available. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin,
Yes.
Commissioner Everett,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes.
Mayor Bab.
Yes. Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners. The voting delegate for the League of Cities has passed unanimously by 4-0 vote. Now we're moving to, I'm sorry, I need to at least give those who had filled out a card on the agenda item, and it should have been done prior to our vote. I apologize for that. Mr. Lambert, do any of you all will wish to speak and address the commission?
I wanted to applaud you all on your decision. I think you made the right decision, and I want to congratulate Chandler on getting the city recognized there as the magazine. That was very impressive, and I think that will go a long way towards helping the city and attracting additional investment and invest in the city.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now we'll move into the comments, concerns of citizens. Again, you must have had a comment card completed. City Clerk, do we have any comments, general
Yes.
concerns?
Yes, sir. Metra Hughes. Okay. Miss Catherine Marvez.
Thank you. Catherine Marvez, 1838 East Main Street. I missed the last two meetings, but I did get to catch them on YouTube. And watching them, as you know, they were very contentious meetings. I was really disappointed and dismayed at what I saw and what's gone on since the previous elections. Interestingly enough, many of the things that I wrote down on my notes to say to you all today were addressed by Mr. Bannon, which is crazy coincidence. But I still felt the need that I wanted to address you and offer you some of my advice. I have 9 years of experience in a middle management government position reporting directly to the provincial government. I understand what you go through, and you're having a very difficult time. It's a small community, and you need to have backup everywhere that you can. One of the things that I want to say to you is, in order to be successful, in my opinion, you must work as a team. And when I say team, I mean every commissioner, the city manager, the attorney, the city clerk, everybody who sits in this audience, every vendor who comes to do business with us. We must all work together. There is no problem that can come up within your day that cannot be solved for the benefit of the city, for its citizens, and for the future of Pahokee. It's within your means. However, in my personal opinion, it is not within anyone's means unless you adopt and understand the principle of published project management, where every person involved is held accountable, responsible, and given the authority. That means everybody must have input into every process and procedure, no matter how small. If you follow those guidelines, it's been my experience that nothing fails. You meet your timelines or you adjust your timelines. You meet your milestones, you go on. It's quite simple. But the most beneficial part is that nothing falls through the cracks. It's all about a matter of communication. We understand that you have hired some very key, knowledgeable people to represent you and guide you.
Okay.
And I want you not only to admire their intelligence, their business knowledge, but I also want you to question them when it's appropriate. Take the information that your city manager gives you and ask questions outside the realm of his explanations to make sure that what you're voting on is in the best interest of Pahokee. I know that Pahokee is tied up very strong bonds of church, school, fraternity, membership clubs, debt, friends, everything. But when you sit up on that dais, I ask you please to sit up there as individuals. I think I have 3 more minutes, or am I done?
No, it's time is up, I'm sorry.
She got none.
I got 3 more minutes.
Oh, she got
Thank
3
you.
minutes and someone else?
I saw you jump to get that gavel, I know, so now I get 4. One of the things that I was most interested in was public records, and I know you addressed this at one of those meetings, and I know you're looking forward to streamlining that process and making sure that the city clerk is indeed responsible and accountable for all of the public records that you produce, the city clerk, as she should be, and that you will make sure that everything is on a timely manner. One thing that I did want to bring up to you is that I noticed while you're on the dais, many of you will use your cell phones. I want to caution you about the use of cell phones in discussing business, texting, or anything else, because as you know, under the Sunshine Law, it becomes a matter of public record and must be preserved and attainable by the public. So I want you to caution that and maybe discuss that with your council to make sure that you are covering yourself and the city. You all were voted into your positions by the city of Pahokee, who entrusted you to represent them. Those are really powerful words. And I would ask you, please, if you do nothing more, every day that you walk through that door, please recite to yourself, we have been entrusted by the city of the Pahokee for its future, the future of the city, and the future of the citizens. It's a huge responsibility, and I know none of us want it. So we're here to defend you, we're here to support you, but we do want you to work together in a professional, a successful manner. And I'm glad to see that this evening it was quite a different meeting. And I'm grateful that I was here tonight to see it, and I hope you're moving forward. All the best to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
City Clerk, do we have any additional comments, cards?
Yes, sir. Miss Olivia Clark.
Thank you very much.
And while she's passing this out, I just want to remind residents that when you speak before the commission, you're not always going to get an answer tonight, but the city manager and staff will get back with you as soon as possible. For those that can take a quick answer, we will address that, but other than that, you will get back. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Olivia Clark. I reside at 1115 Garden Place here in Pahokee. I am a certified medical assistant active in the medical field for more than 10 years. I have worked in gynecology as well as fertility clinics in our region. In this time, I have had the opportunity to hear challenges in our local community as well as observe the need in our community. Currently, our community does not offer pregnancy resources to families that I believe are vital and necessary. Our population has a little over 6,000 individuals. Younger individuals and families often need educational resources coupled with emotional, physical, and spiritual support as they embark on one of the most important, exhausting, yet rewarding seasons of their lives, parenthood. For some time now, I have felt led to open a pregnancy resource center here in Pahokee. This center would provide aid and assist our community and its families. We would serve all families despite demographics or makeup. At times there are crisis situations regarding unplanned pregnancies, maturation, education, as well as support needs including diapers, baby clothes, formula, and more. This center will also offer classes to help parents and youth with skill building, couples counseling, pregnancy testing, information about pregnancy options, material resources, post-decision support, including parenting and education, and abortion recovery groups, life coaching, conflict management, etc. I have filed and received a 501c3 nonprofit from the IRS, and I am registered with the state of Florida. A copy of these documents are provided in the packets I gave to each of you. Through the financial and resource partnership of others that agree with the need and vision, we have solidified a building which is located at 296 East Main Street. Many items have already been donated as a blessing to our community. At this point, all that is needed to open the center is a business license. On my way to purchase the business license, I received a call stating that a site plan review was needed, with including a $2,000 fee. Upon my research of a site plan review, I feel there was a mistake made because this building is zoned commercial, which I have included a copy of the business from property appraisers in your packets as well. And no drastic changes have been made to the building. I'm humbly coming before you to see if you can assist in resolving this matter. It is my deepest desire to begin serving and helping the community of Pahokee. Thank you.
Again, city manager, I don't know if they're going to take some additional research for you, but if you
No, we can. She's welcome to come to the office on tomorrow, and we'll respond to it appropriately through building planning and zoning. I have no further comment on that.
Okay, thank you. City clerk, are there any additional comments, cards?
Yes, sir. Miss Sharon Colvin.
Sharon Colvin, 3096 Bacon Point Road. Chandler, I sent you and Tasha and Keith a picture today. Saturday night, I believe it was, that somebody came and dumped across from the condos, right in front of the sugarcane. And I was just talking to AJ, and he's going to go out tomorrow and see about that. But, you know,
Hello.
I know that we're not the only place around on Bacon Point Road that gets people coming and dumping. And, you know, we're talking about our city being beautiful, trying to make it pretty. If you see somebody that is dumping, get their tag number, take a picture of them or something. If I'd have seen who dumped this, I'd have called the police. But get their tag number if you see somebody doing it. And let's stop this garbage being dumped everywhere.
That's right.
Thank you. City Clerk, are there any additional comments, Card?
Yes, sir, Mr. Carl Morrison Sr.
Good evening, Carl Morrison Senior, 2587 Southwest 14th Terrace. I noticed you all have started using the hash word as far as getting the word out for everything. To each and every one of y'all, these meetings are not designed to really get the input from citizens because you only have 3 minutes, and that's obvious because other people donating their time to others. I would like for each one of you all to listen very carefully as far as start having town hall meetings every quarter, and each and every one of you have the authority to use any facility in the city to get this done. So before the night is over, when you have your chance to comment, I would like you all to put it in a form of a motion where you can be held accountable yourself as well as having the town hall meeting where we can have more involved.
I think we did.
Thank you.
We did, I mean.
Any additional cards, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir, Ms. Pearl Freeman.
Pearl Freeman, 331 Vineyard Avenue, Pahokee, Florida. I want to know if you all can turn the lights on the field.
The lights were damaged recently by the last storm. I think came through about 2 weeks ago. We just simply went over there and replaced the light bulbs. Yeah, Sunday night. There's a light bulb issue.
Yeah, like, it's about 3 light bulbs missing on that one, but the other one don't get turned on.
So it's not working because they all have a remote switch.
I don't know, they can't work if you don't turn them on.
No, man, when I say remote switch, I mean it operates on remote. Meaning it's already on, so it might be a blown fuse or a blown bulb. So we can check into that. We can check into that for you. Not a problem. You're welcome.
You had a comment, AJ? Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any additional comments, cards?
Ms. Linda Mouse.
Save the best for last.
No. I too want to applaud you for the move that you took tonight with TechnoMarine. I think it's in the best interest of the city that we be allowed to move forward. Enough's enough. I'd like to add one thing to the young lady's statement that she made about a thing she offered about abortion counseling and this, that, and the other. I'd like to see you add an adoption option in there. I'm an adopted child. We need to be able to adopt children. Number 3, and this is really what I got up here for, all these other things came up. Moving forward as a commission, it's going to be extremely important for y'all to have communication to the nth degree of everything being shared with everybody. And that is going to make or break this next venture that we're going to step out on. It's just like a doctor and a knee replacement. The doctor can do his job, but if you don't do the physical therapy, he ain't worth a tinker's darn. So you might as well get ready to put in some sweat equity and get busy. Now, my suggestion is, I would like to see, because I want to hold everybody accountable, and I'll be happy to make up the form, submit it to the city, y'all can fill it out, but I would like to see, for lack of better terms, an attendance record produced. Because Chandler offers every city commissioner special time, one-on-one, to keep you up to date, to keep you informed, and know where everything is. And I'd like for y'all to have to sign this attendance record, and I'd like for a copy of that attendance record to be in each packet for every meeting, so that each commissioner can see who's coming and who's not coming. And y'all hold each other accountable, because it's going to be critical if we move forward and do it in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll move into the.
Yes, it's one back there. She didn't turn it in. Did you have?
It's too
Did she? Oh, she late.
Too late.
I mean, big.
She's a visitor. She's a visitor.
She filled out a card.
Yeah, she's.
Okay. All right, Ms. Wick. Would you turn that in to the city clerk, though, before addressing the commission? Your card.
I wrote the notes on the back.
Oh, well, okay.
But I'll give it to her.
State your name.
Gwendolyn
Okay.
Asia Holly, past Vice Mayor of City of Belgrade. I came because I wanted just an explanation or purpose. The last sheet on the rental agreement for the cafeteria, it asked for the person that's completing it to get a signature from the Palm Beach County Fire Department in Belgrade, a signature from Public Works, a signature from Code Enforcement, and a signature from Building and Zoning. I'm not building anything when I rent it for 3 hours. Code Enforcement, the building should already, if you're leasing it, should be safe. I don't know why I need to get Public Works or to be able to go all the way to Belgrade to get a signature if I am renting the building. I have no problem with the fee. I just don't understand the purpose for someone renting your facility to have to go through these departments that has nothing to do with the actual renting. And I need an explanation. I want an explanation.
And city manager, we're not going to put you on the spot, but if you can give a brief explanation for that, please do. If not, Ms. Williams, he would have to contact you in the morning with a more detail.
That application is a standard, and what we do when it comes to my office, I waive those areas that you have to go get those additional signatures. It depends on the type of activity, but most of what you just read off, it's already waived. So you don't have to get those signatures. There's only 3 signatures on there that I know that has to be done. Your signature, the Director of Parks and Recreation, and if it's something that has to really require PVSO, maybe their signature.
It's a
but
birthday
that's about
party
it.
for a 70-year-old preacher.
I understand
Okay.
that. That's why we don't. That's why we don't.
Be no alcohol.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
So we
right.
waive all those other signatures.
Okay.
We always do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
City manager, with that not being a necessary requirement, could some of those items be removed so it won't be a conflict or question? Do I need to get all of this information?
Yeah. That's the first time someone's ever asked, because we've always waived all those signatures. But yeah, it could be revised. Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. Having had all the questions and comments done, we're going to move into the correspondence comments concerning of the city commission. We'll start with Vice Mayor Mervin.
Okay. Good afternoon. Well, good evening. Sorry that I was late from the workshop. Y'all know we have a new school superintendent, Dr. Fernord. So we was down here, had a meet and greet for him today, so I had to do the greetings for the city of Pahokee. But I would like to go on with what Mrs. Colvin, and I don't know her name back there in the back. I forgot her name. But about the illegal dumping and the cleanliness of Pahokee. When we was out there on Saturday, I tell you, it's terrible. You know, to look at the amount of trash that this is not just, this is every Saturday morning, pretty much that this, and then if Public Works don't work on the weekend, this trash lays there until Monday. Thank God that they come to work about 6:30 before the really business people start coming through on a weekday because they have it already cleaned up. But my thing is, and I ride through the city, we have a lot of garbage that's illegally dumped just everywhere. And it's really sad. I know I was talking to, as a matter of fact, Sister Brindell Brinson, she's the property manager for Amarilla's Garden. Right outside her gate, someone came and just dumped all kinds of stuff with the camper over it, with all kinds of stuff, and had a nerve to put a tarp over it. And it's right there on the side of the road. You know, if you really need something, your trash picker, call Public Works. I'm sure they will come out and help you assist in getting the dump, your illegal dumping. But my question, how do we get investors to come? Because the first thing when they see us, the first thing they address us, why do y'all don't bring housing? Why don't y'all bring jobs? Why don't y'all bring this? But we're not the ones that build the houses. We're not the ones that create the jobs. We try to reach out to sell Pahokee to bring in investors to come and want to put their monies here. But when they ride through the city, they're going to keep on riding because of how our city looks. So we all have to take pride in where we look and just not teach our children not to pollute. Teach them that, to put stuff in the garbage. Another thing, Mr. Morrison, with the town hall meeting, we did address that. I'm not sure whether we made the motion, but I will tonight make a motion that we have a town hall meeting every quarter. I know we did discuss this with the city manager already. So I would like to make a motion tonight that we put that on record, that we, the commission, will have a town hall meeting every quarter. Mayor, can I do that?
Yes, ma'am. You're in order.
Okay, so I make a motion tonight that every quarter that we have a town hall meeting.
Second.
Been moved by Vice Mayor Mervin and properly second by Commissioner Everett to hold a town hall meeting quarterly. Call for questions. Hearing none, are you ready for vote, Commission? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Mervin?
Yes.
Commissioner Everett?
Yes.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes.
Commissioner Walker? Mayor Bab?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioners.
And just one more thing, Mayor, I just want to say Pahokee. Believe Pahokee is moving forward, whether you think it's not moving or not. Pahokee is moving forward. Things are happening into our city. But one thing that she said, we have to come together as a team. We have to work together. We have to be a family. It's a small community. Let's stop pointing fingers at this one and that one, and let's start working together and uniting. None of us might not get it all right there at that time, but come and say, you know what, I have a suggestion, and let's work. Robert and Robert, I would like to commend you guys to stick around here in Pahokee. I thank you for that. That you see a vision for this city, and that we vow tonight to work with you guys to help make this city, that community, to work together, make it a city of choice, city that we can play and our kids can grow up in. Good night.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Mervin. Commissioner Everett.
Good evening, citizens, both present and via live stream, and our guests. I would also like to say thank you, a special thank you to our city staff, especially our grounds crew who worked tirelessly and didn't hear any grumble about working and ensuring that the city that they also live in looks clean. And so I just want to say to the director and to your staff especially, I wish we could have even recognized your team on tonight, because I thought it was very commendable, the attitudes that they possessed while doing it. They had pride in ensuring that our city looks good. And so I just want to commend you. Mayor, not only will the city manager award them comp time, but they got tipped along the way because they found money while they were cleaning and around MLK Park. So yeah, they got tipped. So I know some of them had an extra smile on their face. Just picking back and reiterating what my colleague Vice Mayor Mervin stated, from the cleanup we had opportunities to observe some things. One being illegal dumping. And I think every citizen, not just commission, not just employees of the city, but every citizen needs to take it as an obligation to ensure that if you see anyone dumping illegally, to say something to proper authorities, because if we're going to push and move our city progressively forward, we need to ensure that we are presenting a good front, and that means our city needs to be nice, clean, and presentable. I do have a question with regards to the OPHS exterior. City Manager, you did include it in your biweekly report. I do have a question concerning, is there a delay with that project, and if so, why?
Are you referring to Old Pahokee?
The Old Pahokee High School.
Oh, no, what we're doing right now is I brought in some contractors just to give me an idea of what that bid should look like if they were ever awarded the job, and they came in and gave some of them assessments of the landscape, and the exterior painting, and what it will cost in dynamics of what we have available through the surtax funds. Once I get that second quote, as I mentioned in my biweekly report, then we'll go back and we'll start drafting a bid that we think is acceptable, that we can afford to pay out of the surtax, and then we'll move forward with that. Yeah.
I had the privilege of reading a book and finishing up a book with the church that I'm privileged to pastor, and one part of that book states how we have to celebrate low-hanging fruit. And one of the low-hanging fruits that we have to celebrate is the fact that our city, regardless of comments about whether we're progressing or not, somebody thinks enough of us that they featured us in a Quality City magazine. And regardless of, for lack of a better term, hood news or rumor mills, we are making some progress. And I think it's incumbent upon us as citizens to do a better job at celebrating the small successes, because if you can appreciate the small successes, you can definitely celebrate the large ones when they do come. And so I do want to celebrate the city for being featured in the Quality City magazine. But one of the things that was mentioned in the article was how small, medium businesses somewhat meet impasses or have issues, for lack of a better way of putting it, with doing business or starting business in the city. And I would strongly suggest that we do a better job. We're so happy to have Everglades to come in. We're happy with that. But we don't want to get so enamored and distracted by that success that we also don't embrace small, medium-sized businesses. And I'm not saying that the city is against it. I'm not saying that we're not celebrating it. But the magazine did mention a statement, and we did have a young lady who came to our front regarding some help, some assistance, seeing what we can do as a city to embrace not just the large businesses, and we do appreciate you, but also those small and medium-sized businesses who want to do business and who want to bring something of substantive value to our city. And so I would strongly suggest that we look at assisting and aiding those entities. I'm going to take some of the mayor's time because he had such an abbreviated report. If you just give me just a few more moments. I'm definitely in support, and I thank my colleague, Vice Mayor Mervin, for stepping up and for putting into motion, because in integrity, keeping in integrity with our candidate forum. I believe even Ms. Hill was of the same thought, that we need to communicate with our citizenry more. And so you beat me to the punch, because if you didn't do it, I was going to do it. I want to commend you for doing that, because our citizens deserve to hear from us, and not just in a 3-minute setting. They deserve to hear from us, but we also need to be in a posture and a position to hear from them. Also, it's been a burden on my heart. There needs to be an improvement of morale in our city. I think sometimes alternative facts and oftentimes false news and lies take wings and fly, while the truth hath the thumb of ride. And I think we need to do a better job with increasing the culture and the morale in our city. And I think what will help and aid in that is trying to come up with some community family engagement activities. And if we don't have a board that can promote that, I would strongly suggest, Mr. Mayor, if we can come up with a board to address community family engagement activities to boost the culture and the morale within our city. Also, it was on the agenda of the city manager that housing is an agenda. Housing is top of the priority in 2018. I think we need to also look at, as a city, we can't do it all. The issues and the needs within our community cannot be on the back of the city. We have other entities within our city and within our county that should bear this burden that we have. We have a local housing authority within our city that should be at the cutting edge, leading this task force in bringing more affordable housing in our community. And I just would hope, if we could, as a commission, speak with the executive director of Pahokee Housing Authority, or see if we can have somewhat of a discussion with them to ensure that we can bring that, to make that reality in our city, because housing is desperately needed. In closing, I know some of you all are happy that I'm closing. I say that on Sunday, sometimes 3 times before actually closing, but I am about to close. I think it's, I say this lovingly and I say this respectfully, I think it's highly presumptuous to assume that our use of our cell phones or electronic devices is being used to communicate privately while we're transacting city business. I say this respectfully and lovingly, that I think I've proven with my short tenure on the dais. I have no problem with communicating forthrightly. I have no problem with communicating the thoughts that are on my mind. I don't need any encouragement. I don't need any push. I don't need any nudge to speak truth to power as I see it. So I do want to correct that misnomer as it relates to me. That I have access to my city email. I have documents that I do save. And when it does call for referencing such documents or such notes, I will do it at that time. So I want the citizens that are here and the citizens that are viewing via live stream to know that I try to be as transparent as possible. I try to walk in a spirit and air of integrity. But you do have one that you've elected that does not need any help with saying what I need to say. My namesake made sure that I understood what it was to be a man, and a man to speak what's on his heart and what's on his mind. That's my comments for tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill.
I want to reiterate Commissioner Everett's points, and thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you, ma'am. And last but not least, we'll give Commissioner Walker, I think she's gone, but Commissioner Walker, I got spanked on the wrist for not doing that. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
And don't take all our minutes like that. Don't take out. Thank you, dear sir.